My straight friend brought wine, kissed me before the cork even popped. It was one of those evenings that seemed ordinary at first, but looking back, I should have noticed the subtle signs that something was different. My apartment had never felt cozier than it did that night. The soft glow of string lights draped across my living room cast gentle shadows on the walls, and I'd spent an embarrassing amount of time arranging throw pillows on my couch to achieve that perfect, effortlessly comfortable look. I even lit my favorite sandalwood candle, the expensive one I usually save for special occasions. Why was I putting in so much effort for a casual hangout with Alex? We'd been friends for nearly 5 years, after all. This wasn't our first movie night, but something about this evening felt charged with anticipation. Let me back up a bit and explain our friendship. Alex and I met during our junior year of college in a comparative literature class. We bonded over our shared hatred of our pretentious professor who insisted Kafka was light reading. From that first eye roll we exchanged across the classroom, our friendship blossomed into something I treasured deeply. We studied together, celebrated birthdays together, and even went on a disastrous camping trip where we discovered neither of us could properly pitch a tent. Through breakups, job rejections, and family drama, we'd been each other's constant. Alex had always identified as straight, dating a series of girlfriends throughout the years I'd known them, while I had come out as bisexual during our first year of friendship. It had never been an issue between us. Not once. There were moments, though, fleeting instances where our eyes would linger on each other a second too long, or our hands would brush while reaching for the same snack, sending an unexpected jolt through my system. I'd always dismissed these moments as my imagination working overtime, a hazard of being perpetually single and spending too much time watching romantic comedies. But these moments had been increasing in frequency lately, and I found myself thinking about Alex in ways that friends typically don't think about each other. The doorbell rang at exactly 7:30 p.m. Alex was punctual as always. I took a deep breath, smoothed down my shirt, which I'd changed 3 times before settling on a casual blue button-down that a previous date had once said brought out my eyes, and opened the door. There stood Alex, slightly windswept from the autumn breeze outside, holding a bottle of red wine and wearing that crooked smile that always made my stomach do a little flip. "I brought reinforcements," Alex said, holding up the wine bottle. It wasn't just any wine. It was a Cabernet Sauvignon from the vineyard we'd visited together last summer on a day trip with friends. We'd both declared it the best wine we'd ever tasted, dramatically swirling it in our glasses like we knew what we were doing, making the sommelier hide her smile behind her hand. Thought we could recreate a bit of that day. Minus you spilling red wine all over that white tablecloth, preferably. I laughed, feeling the tension in my shoulders release slightly. That was not my fault. That table was wobbly, and you know it. I stepped aside to let Alex in, catching a whiff of that familiar cologne, something woodsy with hints of citrus. "I can't believe you remembered which wine it was." I was too buzzed by the end of that tasting to remember anything. How could I forget? You wouldn't stop talking about the notes of blackberry and vanilla for weeks afterward. I think you were just showing off the one wine term you knew. Alex's eyes crinkled at the corners when they teased me, and I felt that familiar warmth spread through my chest. As Alex moved past me into the apartment, I noticed they'd made an effort too. Instead of the usual jeans and t-shirt, Alex wore dark slacks and a fitted sweater that highlighted the broad shoulders I'd definitely never spent time admiring. Had Alex always dressed this nicely for our hangouts? I couldn't remember. The music I'd carefully selected played softly in the background, a playlist of indie folk songs that we both enjoyed. I'd spent an embarrassing amount of time curating it, removing anything too obviously romantic or, conversely, too depressing. I wanted the perfect atmosphere, comfortable but not too intimate, fun but not distracting. "This place looks different," Alex commented, glancing around my apartment. "Did you rearrange?" I had, in fact, spent the entire morning moving furniture around, but I wasn't about to admit that. "Just did a bit of cleaning," I lied, taking the wine bottle. "Let me get this open. Make yourself comfortable." As I headed to the kitchen to find my corkscrew, I could feel Alex's eyes on me. It wasn't unusual for us to spend time at each other's places, but tonight felt different. There was an energy in the air, an unspoken tension that made every movement feel significant. In the kitchen, I fumbled with the corkscrew, suddenly feeling nervous. Why was I nervous? This was Alex, for crying out loud. We'd seen each other at our absolute worst. Like the time I had the flu and Alex brought me soup, only to find me in my rattiest pajamas with tissues stuffed up my nose. Or when Alex called me at 3 a.m. after a particularly brutal breakup, voice cracking with emotion, and I drove across town in my pajamas just to sit in silence together. There was no need for nerves now. I returned to the living room to find Alex examining the photos on my bookshelf, mostly snapshots of us with our friend group, but also a few of just the two of us. There was one from a Halloween party where we'd done a last-minute couple's costume as Wayne and Garth from Wayne's World. Another from a road trip where we'd pulled over to watch the sunset over a lake, our silhouettes framed against the orange sky. Looking at them now, anyone might have mistaken us for a couple. "Remember this day?" Alex asked, pointing to a photo of us at a music festival, both sunburned and grinning widely. Alex's arm slung casually around my shoulders. "How could I forget? You insisted we didn't need sunscreen because it was cloudy, and then we both looked like lobsters for a week." I set down the wine and corkscrew on the coffee table. "That was a good day, though, despite the sunburn." Alex turned to me, still holding the framed photo. "We have a lot of good days together, don't we?" There was something in Alex's voice that made me pause. A vulnerability, a question beneath the question. "We do," I replied softly, unsure where this was going. Alex set the photo down and moved toward the couch. "So what's the plan for tonight? Movie? Game? Or are we just going to drink this fancy wine and pretend we can taste this subtle oak undertones or whatever?" I laughed, grateful for the break in tension. "I was thinking we could start with the wine, maybe order some food later. I've got a few movies queued up, but nothing's set in stone." "Sounds perfect," Alex said, sinking onto my couch and reaching for the wine bottle. "Let me help with this. You're notoriously bad with corkscrews." "That was one time," I protested, remembering the incident where I'd somehow managed to break a cork in half, sending pieces floating in our wine. "One memorable time," Alex corrected with a grin, taking the corkscrew from my hand. Our fingers brushed, and there it was again, that small electric current that seemed to pass between us whenever we touched. I wondered if Alex felt it too, or if it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. I sat down next to Alex, perhaps a bit closer than necessary, and watched as they expertly twisted the corkscrew into the cork. There was something mesmerizing about watching Alex's hands work, strong, confident movements that made even opening a wine bottle seem graceful. "So," Alex began, focusing intently on the task, "how have you been?" "Really been, I mean. Not the 'I'm fine' you tell everyone else." This was typical of our friendship, cutting through the superficial to get to what mattered. It was one of the things I valued most about Alex. "I've been thinking a lot," I admitted, watching the corkscrew sink deeper into the cork. "About life, the future, what I want." "And what do you want?" Alex asked, glancing up at me briefly before returning attention to the wine bottle. It was a loaded question, one that had been circling my mind for months. What did I want? A promotion at work? A change of scenery? Or was it someone, much closer to home? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I deflected. "I'm still figuring it out. What about you? How are things with—" I trailed off, realizing I didn't know if Alex was currently seeing anyone. Had it been that long since we'd had a proper catch-up? "There's no with anyone at the moment," Alex replied, working the cork slowly out of the bottle. "Haven't been for a while, actually." This was news to me. "Really? I thought you were seeing that person from your office? The one with the dog you were obsessed with?" Alex chuckled. "That ended months ago. The dog was definitely the best part of that relationship. I've been taking a break from dating, actually, trying to figure some things out." "What kinds of things?" I asked, genuinely curious. It wasn't like Alex to take breaks from dating. In the years I'd known them, there had always been someone in the picture, even if just casually. Alex paused, the cork now halfway out of the bottle. "Things like what I really want in a relationship, who I'm really attracted to, stuff I thought I had figured out a long time ago, but now I'm not so sure." My heart rate picked up slightly. Was Alex trying to tell me something? I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the atmosphere in the room had definitely shifted. "That sounds significant," I said carefully, not wanting to assume anything. "Any particular reason for the soul searching?" Alex looked at me then, really looked at me, with an intensity that made my breath catch. "Yeah, there's a reason." The cork chose that moment to pop free from the bottle with a satisfying sound, breaking the tension momentarily. Alex set the corkscrew down on the coffee table, but made no move to pour the wine. Do you ever think about how certain people come into your life and just change everything? Alex asked, still holding the open wine bottle. Not in a dramatic way, necessarily, but they shift your perspective, make you question things you thought were set in stone. I nodded slowly, my mouth suddenly dry. I do, actually. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, Alex continued, setting the wine bottle down without pouring it. About how sometimes the person you want most has been right in front of you all along, but you couldn't see it because you were so caught up in what you thought you were supposed to want. My heart was hammering now, so loud I was sure Alex could hear it. Were we still talking in hypotheticals? It didn't feel like it. Alex, I began, not even sure what I was going to say next. But I never got to finish that thought, because in one fluid motion, Alex leaned forward and kissed me. Just like that, before we'd even poured the wine, before the cork had time to breathe, before I had time to process what was happening. Alex's lips were on mine, soft and tentative at first, then more confident as I began to respond. The kiss lasted only seconds, but it felt like everything shifted in that brief moment. When Alex pulled back, there was vulnerability in those eyes I knew so well, a question hanging in the air between us. I've been wanting to do that for a long time, Alex whispered, searching my face for a reaction. Probably longer than I've even realized. I was stunned, my mind racing to catch up with what had just happened. Alex had kissed me. My straight friend had kissed me. The friend I'd been harboring feelings for, trying to suppress them for the sake of our friendship, had actually kissed me. Say something, Alex prompted, looking increasingly nervous as my silence stretched on. Even if it's to tell me I completely misread everything and ruined our friendship. Just say something. I found my voice at last. You didn't misread anything, I said softly. I thought you were straight. Alex let out a small laugh, relief evident in the sound. Yes, so did I. For a long time. But then I realized that maybe labels aren't always as fixed as we think they are. Or maybe they are, and I just had mine wrong. All I know is that when I'm with you, everything feels right in a way it never has with anyone else. How long have you known? I asked, still trying to process this revelation. That I have feelings for you? Probably since that road trip last year, when we got lost and ended up at that diner in the middle of nowhere. You were laughing at something ridiculous I said, and I just thought, I want to make this person laugh for the rest of my life. But I didn't know what to do with that feeling, so I pushed it away. Alex reached for my hand, intertwining our fingers. As for questioning my sexuality, that's been a more recent journey. A lot of late-night internet searches, some conversations with friends who've gone through similar realizations. It's been confusing, but also clarifying in a way. I squeezed Alex's hand, feeling a surge of affection and admiration. That takes a lot of courage. To question something so fundamental about yourself. It was scary, Alex admitted. Still is. But not as scary as the thought of never telling you how I feel, of watching you potentially end up with someone else because I was too afraid to speak up. The honesty in Alex's words touched something deep within me. How many times had I imagined this scenario, only to dismiss it as impossible? How many times had I convinced myself that my feelings would ruin our friendship if Alex ever discovered them? I've had feelings for you too, I confessed, for longer than I care to admit. But I never thought you could feel the same way. I was so certain you were straight that I never allowed myself to hope. Alex smiled, that crooked smile that always made my heart skip. Well, labels aside, I know how I feel about you. And that's the clearest thing in my life right now. We sat there for a moment, hands intertwined, the opened but unpoured wine forgotten on the coffee table. The playlist had cycled to a slow, acoustic song that seemed to perfectly capture the moment, tentative, hopeful, on the cusp of something new. So what happens now? I finally asked, the practical part of my brain kicking in despite the dreamlike quality of the moment. Well, for starters, I think we should actually drink this wine I brought, Alex suggested with a laugh. And then, we take it one day at a time? I don't have all the answers. I'm still figuring things out. But I know I want to figure them out with you, if you're willing. I nodded, feeling a smile spread across my face. I'd like that. One day at a time sounds perfect. Alex reached for the wine bottle and poured 2 glasses, handing one to me. To new beginnings? They proposed, raising their glass. To new beginnings, I agreed, clinking my glass against Alex's. And to wine that never got a chance to breathe. Alex laughed. I think it'll survive. Some things are worth rushing into. As we sipped our wine, I couldn't help but marvel at how quickly life can change. One moment, you're preparing for a normal evening with your friend, and the next, you're embarking on something entirely new and unexpected. The apartment looked the same soft lighting, same carefully arranged pillows, same photos on the bookshelf, but everything felt different. We talked for hours that night, the movie plans completely forgotten. We discussed our fears and hopes, the moments we'd each felt something more than friendship, but been too afraid to acknowledge it. We laughed about how obvious it might have been to everyone else. Our friends had apparently had a betting pool going about when we'd finally figure it out. There were practical concerns too, of course. Alex was still navigating this new understanding of identity and wasn't sure about coming out to family yet. I worried about the potential strain on our friendship if a romantic relationship didn't work out. But underneath all these considerations was a current of excitement and rightness that couldn't be denied. As the night grew late and the wine bottle emptied, we found ourselves curled together on my couch, the physical boundaries we'd maintained for years suddenly permeable. Alex's arm around my shoulders felt both familiar and thrillingly new. "I'm glad I brought wine tonight," Alex murmured, lips close to my ear. "Dutch courage, I guess." "I'm glad you kissed me before the cork even popped," I replied. "It's a good story to tell." "Is that what this is going to be? A story?" I turned to look at Alex, taking in those familiar features that I'd memorized long ago. "I think it's going to be much more than a story. I think it might be the beginning of the best chapter yet." Alex smiled and leaned in for another kiss. This one slower, more deliberate than the first. And as I kissed back, I thought about how life rarely goes according to plan, how the most significant moments often catch us by surprise. My straight friend had brought wine and kissed me before the cork even popped, and nothing would ever be the same again. But maybe, just maybe, it would be better than I ever could have imagined. In the days and weeks that followed, we navigated our new relationship with a mixture of excitement and caution. There were awkward moments, like when we ran into Alex's ex at a coffee shop and froze, unsure how to introduce me. There were beautiful moments, too, like the first time Alex casually took my hand in public, a simple gesture that felt revolutionary. Our friend group was supportive, if a bit smug about having seen it coming all along. "Finally," was the most common response, followed by good-natured demands for payment from those who'd lost the betting pool. Alex continued to explore and understand this new aspect of identity, sometimes with confidence, other times with doubt. I learned to be patient, to listen more than I spoke, to understand that everyone's journey is different. We had conversations about labels, whether they mattered, which ones felt right, if any were needed at all. Alex eventually settled on queer as a term that felt both accurate and freeing, though with the caveat that this too might evolve over time. There were challenges, of course. Alex's parents were traditional and struggled with the news when it eventually came out. My own insecurities sometimes flared up. Was I just an experiment, a phase? But through honest communication and the foundation of friendship we'd built over years, we weathered these storms together. Looking back now, I'm amazed at how a single moment, a kiss before the wine was even poured, could set in motion such profound change. That bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon still sits on my shelf, empty but preserved as a reminder of the night everything shifted. Sometimes the most extraordinary beginnings happen in the most ordinary settings. A cozy apartment, a bottle of wine, two friends who finally found the courage to be honest about what they really wanted. And as it turns out, what we both wanted was each other, a truth that had been aging like fine wine all along, just waiting for the perfect moment to be uncorked. Total _char_count, 17,902.